Welcome to Main Street Minds with your host, Amish Munshi. This is where industry leaders and seasoned pros share their secrets to success beyond limits. Let's dive in.
How are you? It's been amazing to bring you on this podcast. We have known each other for a few months, but it feels like we have worked together forever. I have been extremely privileged to make major changes in my life with help of Dana, and I was here to share this with everyone. So thanks for helping me and coming on board on this podcast. Would love to learn more about you and understand exactly what you do. So if you want to just do a quick introduction, and then we can open it up to discussion.
Sure. Sounds good, Amish. It's a pleasure to be here. I think what you're doing is awesome. Supporting small businesses too. So you are a friend. That is for sure. And you have done some really good work too, I must say. A little about me. I'm 65. I have been married for over 40 years. I have 3 kids. I have 5 grandkids. Family is super important. I've been doing the work that I do, health and wellness work and fitness, for over 12 years. I started really getting involved. I came from a corporate environment and then a really stressful startup, and really demolished my health. I mean, I had to take a pretty significant sabbatical from that. At the time, I didn't really know what was going on, and now that I do what I do, I know exactly what was going on. It was all lifestyle, pretty much. But I started off really doing, personal training, working with clients, corrective exercise. I was working with some pretty high-end athletes, Olympic trial qualified runners, who have a lot of musculoskeletal issues. But then I started working with everyday clients that wanted to just get fit. And so that eventually led to opening with a partner, my partner Marilyn at the time, awesome lady. We just worked on a handshake, believe it or not. We never had an agreement. We had a little boutique gym up in Lafayette, California. And, the thing about that is, movement, exercising, and in particular fitness training. I was doing functional training, so kettlebells, dumbbells, that type of thing. Working on mobility, strength. You ask a client, hey, how are you doing today? Because you develop a really close relationship with them. And they start to talk to you, and I soon discovered that people were not doing well. They still were suffering either with weight, typically multiple health complaints, and I'll just make this quick. So that really sucked me down into nutrition. And really getting into that, that's when I became a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. So I work under a medical directorship, which gives me access to functional labs. So I started really getting into that, looking at people's hormones related to stress, gut health, really metabolic function. How is a person's body working? Because what people typically come to me for is weight. But when you start talking and getting into them with my onboarding sessions, you quickly discover that they're having headaches multiple times a week. Their stomachs are messed up. They have high blood pressure. They have inflammation. They have different type, maybe arthritis. A lot of different attributes to health complaints. And so that really pulled me in, and I really started focusing more on the health and wellness side exclusively. And then eventually I left the gym. I started working independently out of my brother-in-law's chiropractic office in Lafayette. And then I actually partnered and put together a corporate well-being business. And that was really going really, really well. It's called 360 Nourish, and then the pandemic hit. And so corporations were, when you think back to those times, They were literally thinking about how many pieces of plexiglass they had to cut to put between desks. So invoices we had in the pipelines got just kind of, my partner moved to San Diego, and so we wrapped that up. So I took a little bit of a break, but then I really got back in and rebranded myself, started working with what I love to do, which is help clients under Insight Health and Fitness, and in particular, really looking at probably one of the most significant drivers of metabolic dysfunction and poor health issues, which has to do with waste and weight in a big way. And that's not a shaming thing. That's just a fact. It's not healthy, okay, is insulin, excess insulin. And excess insulin, I won't get too sciencey here, is caused by excess glucose. And that glucose means blood sugar. And blood sugar is not just candies and sweets. It's driven by starchy carbs. And everybody's just like going crazy in terms of the ingestion of starchy carbs. So that's kind of where I'm at now, and I'm working with people, and one of my programs, signature programs, called Belly Fat Reset, because most of my clients, they come to me because of waist and weight. It's just a fact. It's about aesthetics, and that's okay, because even for me, I went through after the pandemic, I was not in really good shape metabolically. I was really a really poor role model for my clients. I turned things around. And when I did that, I really leaned up my body. I lost weight, my waist reduction, significant, like almost 4 inches and weight over 30 pounds. It was significant. And what I recognized, because I had not really experienced this for myself, is the impact that it had to my self-esteem, okay, and just feeling good. I mean, it was like a level of pride. And so I'm embracing that now. And so that's why I named it Belly Fat Reset. It kind of went against the grain a little bit. It sounded too gimmicky. But, and then with that program, I do use a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor, which it's just a really great tool for those that aren't aware of it. It's that thing you stick on the back of your arm here. You see them patches on people. It's by prescription, so I'm an authorized practitioner for that to be able to authorize those for clients now. And it's just absolutely amazing to see how people respond differently in terms of their glucose. You can't measure insulin with it, but glucose, blood sugar, not related to foods, but stress and exercise, which is a form of stress, but it becomes a way to help people modify their behaviors and really understand, because Amish, what I've really learned over the years is that people really don't know how to eat. And they don't, there's all types of quick fixes out there, Google, and a lot of misinformation. But there's a PhD that I follow that I really, really respect. His name is Dr. Benjamin Bickman, and he is the leading expert out there, probably worldwide, on insulin resistance, which is, type 2 diabetes. Lots of people walking around that are pre-diabetic, and that's based on a certain blood marker. So, but for me, my goal, my mission is to help people, not only reduce their waist, reduce their weight, feel better, move better, think better, and that's what I do.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I have been the recipient of all of those advantages, so I can personally vouch for what you are saying. It seems like initially like saying, hey, there is this one goal that we are trying to do, but the impact of all of this is just so wide. Like it impacts positively on every aspect of our life. So is there like a specific client age population that you tend to work on, or does this work across different ages?
Well, that's actually a great question, and it does work for any age. The statistics, even for kids, well, I'm talking young children in terms of obesity, which means insulin resistance, because if your insulin's below a level, it's impossible to get obese. It's impossible to get fat. It's a hormone, regulating hormone, that has to do with mitigating your energy and overbalance of food that creates energy. But ideally, I would love to be able to work with younger people. I mean, I have done functional lab testing with blood and other markers looking at even, let's say, women and males in their 20s that are already showing signs of metabolic dysfunction and hormonal imbalance. And I do believe it's related primarily to food and insulin, excess insulin. But to answer your question, the ideal client is typically the one that is fed up. They've tried multiple approaches, quick fixes, some silly supplement product that's promising all types of things in terms of weight loss, calorie deprivation, which that's really silly. You don't want to do that. And cardio, trying to burn calories, that's also a very silly concept. If you want to do anything, you want to resistance train. But anyway, that's an aside. So typically people are just fed up and they've tried a lot of things and they're not feeling great. So, and they may have some serious health, consequences. I mean, maybe their physician's been talking to them about they're pre-diabetic or what have you. They have high blood pressure. So, depending on the person, I would say, late 30s, late 60s is kind of that ideal range that people start coming to me. It probably pushes it a little even out a little further, depending. People tend to have to get fit up because what I tell people is there's so many health complaints and symptoms that people are experiencing that's talked about between family and social members, and people think it's normal. It's not normal, okay? Like, they're not normal, and they're common, but they're not normal. And so when people start to realize that, hey, I'm tired of these, that's when they typically reach out to me.
Yeah, and I can definitely attest to it. For the last 4 weekends, whenever I've met friends, they've been like, Amish, what are you doing? And I was like, I will let you know on a video podcast. So thanks.
Okay, cool.
This is going to be a really good introduction. Like, I think I have like about 7 or 8 different friends who have been waiting for me to tell the secret that's going on with my life. So
that's awesome, because I was talking to somebody else we know, and Joe, and who does financial coaching, and sometimes talking about money and health when it comes to referring, it's a touchy subject, right? Like, unless they bring it up and they really start to, so you have to kind of know somebody well. It's not like, hey, I know a painter, you got to go, you know what I mean? It's, you have to kind of know people before you can really open up and say, hey, go talk to, Amish about what he does, or talk about to Dana, in terms of, if you're tired of that waistline and you have some health issues, whatever, he'll, he can help you,
Yeah. So speaking of that, is like, are there like other kind of does this approach work for almost everyone? Not in terms of age, but in terms of are there like certain situations where this program does not work, or are there like who will not be an ideal candidate? Like,
that's a great question. 2 extremes. The first one is you got to be ready to get to work. Okay, you have to be committed. In fact, I do a bit of a qualifying session when I'm doing my onboarding to make sure it's a good fit, because there's no free rides in this. There's no magical pills. There's no pharmacological solution to this. Okay, and there's always trade-offs with that. Okay, so I would say the other thing is sometimes it's rare as people get older. I mean, if you're over 50 and you go anywhere for insurance or health, or you're going to your physical therapy appointment from they're going to ask you about medications. And if you're over 50 and you're not taking any medication, they're going to look up from their desk and they're going to be really surprised. And the reason I say that is because sometimes, depending on the types of medication, these side effects can impact the results in terms of how quickly that might manifest, okay, the results. But that said, with the support of a physician, I have absolutely had people wean off of pressure medications, for example. And you have to be kind of careful because, you don't want to just stop, obviously. I'm not a licensed physician, so I encourage somebody to work with their physician, although I can be an advocate and give them suggestions for how to approach that. So medications can sometimes can contradict the work. But the work that I'm doing and how I do it, it's just about getting your body to work right. Now, there's no implications in terms of, risk or anything. It's just getting somebody's body to metabolically function the way it's supposed to function. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So I know you called it the belly fat reset, right? Like that was one aspect of it. So is that the primary kind of product, and how, like, just the name of it, and then how long is the service? Kind of how long does it take, and then how do you help this becoming a part of somebody's life long term?
You're asking some great questions, Amish. So it's a 10-week program, which is kind of a trick because there's a little preparatory work. So it ends up being 11 or 12. But there's 3 elements. So with the belly fat reset, as I mentioned, one big thing is using that CGM, that continuous glucose monitor. So we need to get that attached to somebody and get them, and then they actually log their foods and their exercise. They're walking my brisk walks 30-minute brisk walks daily that I'm a big advocate of. So they can start to see the relationship between their food and their glucose response, which means insulin, which means increased waist size, okay? And then also they can see their response to exercise, and they can see the response to stress. So I couple that with some learning. So I teach people how to eat what I call authentically, okay? So that prioritizes protein, and it's definitely a low-carb approach, because when you think starchy carbs, think sugar, okay? And it emphasizes healthy fats. And then movement, again, daily brisk walk, and then weekly 30-minute check-ins, where we look at the CGM and how that's going. And I do a little vitality check, looking at energy and mood and ability to focus, and talking about, so it's really, it's a program, but it's very much personalized. How I might work with you is going to be completely different than somebody else. So the belly fat reset program really is a methodology that I use, okay? And then I couple that with my years of working with clients in terms of what they're struggling with, where they may need help in terms of their coaching. Everybody's a little bit different. But the thing that really is, it's doable, it's not about deprivation. And, there might be a week or two where people can struggle a little bit when they're weaning off the the sugar, that hangry thing where people can't go more than a couple hours without eating. That's just, if you can't do that, you're addicted to glucose, right? And you want to get more into that fat burning mode, maybe not ketogenesis, we don't have to talk about that, burning ketones, or just say burning fat, but you definitely want to be more in that mode, okay? So that's really it. It's the CGM, it's authentic eating, it's, it's the weekly check-ins, and it's encouraging that weekly 30-minute brisk walk is magical. And then I do one aspect of this that I don't emphasize really is this approach that I take, especially if you can get to 2 meals a day, which is entirely doable for people, especially if you get the healthy fats and prioritize protein, is it's an intermittent fasting approach. So our bodies are not made to eat all the time. But, when we were hunting and gathering, we would feast, and then we would fast, just because we didn't have, the Smart and Finals or the Trader Joe's or any other grocery store, the Safeways, right? And we didn't have the refrigerator. So our bodies are just not made to function that way. So within the belly fat reset is this built-in intermittent fasting approach, which there's all kinds of science to support this these days. I would love to see people. I actually have a program where I will go into the home and help people set up so they can do some resistance training. Resistance training is downright magical. Some people refer to lean muscle as maybe the major organ, and that has a lot to do with also pushing glucose into that lean muscle and being utilized. So, and as we age, we naturally have an impact from what's called sarcopenia. People typically start to lose muscle mass, and as you age, you want lean muscle. That's like a really big deal for longevity. You could use it as symbolic of where your health is at, is kind of how your muscles are. And you know, that's not a concern for women. You know, sometimes when you talk about resistance training with women, because of all the dogma, they're not going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger or the female version of that. You know, it's impossible. You know, those people that you see on whatever, YouTube or wherever, those, especially women, they're doing maybe some not so legal substances to transform their bodies to look like that. So
yeah, absolutely. And if I understand, like it's easy to start with your program. Does it need any extra special equipment other than, you already mentioned, like there is a continuous glucose monitor? That's the one that we need. Are there any other equipment needed?
No.
How easy is it to go through the program, and how quickly can we start?
I would say you could start. I mean, anybody can start right away. There's no equipment needed. You need to understand what authentic eating is about. So it's back to that commitment. So, you know, it'll take a week or so to really learn a little bit. But I'm there leading that charge. I'm supporting you. I'm pushing the client, whatever, you know, coaching. But what I found is people just don't know. And so it really is about learning, you know, and so that's the big. So they're you know, it's very simple, but the results are very, very complex. So they need the CGM, they need to be able to walk for 30 minutes, and they need to restock their pantry and their refrigerator with the appropriate real food that supports authentic eating. And then it's then doing your work in between with me, and meeting with me every week. So it's pretty easy.
Yeah, and does some of the other questions people may have is, does this increase my monthly grocery bill? Is the food available in the region where I am? Do you think people have enough options? Is this easy to do? I'm asking these questions because these were some of the questions people asked me. I have the answers, but I wanted you to answer them.
Well, you know what? You might have a better answer. I might be a little too close to it, but I will say this. It's absolutely affordable. You know, the one thing you have to realize is that I don't even like to call them food, okay? Because these edibles that people are marketing and selling to you are not real food. But guess what? They can manufacture them very inexpensively, okay? So yeah, you won't pay as much, but the downstream effect of that metabolically, which is going to impact your health and your physical and mental well-being, absolutely. It's a minimal investment. And I think I haven't looked recently, but I think when you look at probably when I was younger with my parents in general, let's say, you know, late 50s and into the 60s, maybe early 70s, I think the percentage of one's budget in terms of food was much greater than it is today. And, it does get back to those cheaply manufactured foods, and it's not food. And, when you look at the consequences of whether your medication is covered or whether it's not, and the other longer term health implications, I would say this: you can't afford not to eat authentically. You can't. And when you put a value on the physical and mental aspects of it, you cannot put a price tag on it. And I would just say this too, and this may come across as a little bit, I don't want it to come across as arrogant at all, but you got to be willing and understand that investment is worthwhile to work with me.
Yeah, and so overall, I can attest to it as well, saying I am still shopping at the same places that I was shopping before. I didn't have to go to even like one extra block of where I need to get my groceries from. I would like to still go to a little more local farmers market and schedule that in my week, so that it's a lot more local than where I've been buying. So there is still some room of improvement in what I do, but that actually means it's going to be even closer to where I shop. It's going to be even more convenient. Yeah. So,
totally agree with you. Great points, Amish. I just want to say I got to emphasize the farmers market. That's really good, because there's a lot of people that can't afford the organic certification. But if you talk to the farmers, you'll get, I think, you can develop a relationship where that they're not using, just a bunch of pesticides and things to grow their food, which has a big impact, the toxicity of that. So
yeah, and once that pesticide is on it, there's really no way to get rid of it. Like an apple with pesticides doesn't just go away with washing it.
No.
It's there all the way inside.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well
so
said.
how can people reach you?
I would say the best way is on my website, which is insighthealth.zone, insighthealth.zone. You can book a discovery Zoom on there, 20 minutes. I think I have a fee on there of $10 just to weed out people signing up for free things. But just use the caps for your listeners here. All caps, free pass, FREEPASS, free pass. You can bypass that. Or, just reach out to me directly at Dana P. Hemmingsen, D-A-N-A, P as in Paul, and my last name Hemmingsen, Hemmingsen, at Gmail. I just went with a Gmail account.
Yeah.
And I'd be glad to respond to your email and get on a Zoom with you and tell you more. And more importantly, understand what one's health goals are, whether it's their waist or blood pressure, whatever it might be. But if it's waist and weight and whatever, I'd be glad to talk to anybody and answer any questions. So it's pretty easy.
Great. Thanks, Dana. It was great having you. I'm going to send this over to all of everyone I know and share it with all my friends and relatives. So if you've seen a big change in my health, it's all Dana's help for the last I would say about 2 months. Almost coming close to 2 months.
Yeah, but let me stop you though. So I'm the guide, but you put in the effort, and you had some roadblocks, and kudos for you to work around those roadblocks, and everybody has them, right? But you kept on going. So that was great effort.
Yeah. And honestly, like many times I've thought about doing different options, but after a few weeks, most of the effort does wane away, right? So having you meeting up weekly, going through this prolonged, it feels like prolonged, but I think it was very, very necessary for me for the 10 weeks, right? That definitely helped. Like if it was just me trying to do this by myself, it wouldn't have happened. It's not just knowledge, it's also like execution, right? And that is where Dana helps the most.
Absolutely, Amish. And let me just comment too, normally when I use Zoom, I have my little background and stuff, and people can see these bows up here, and I don't hunt. It's just for target, go to the Briones Reservoir. They have an archery range, and that is my Viking heritage up there. So, but I'm not some macho hunting guide. So I just want to make sure, because I got the football back here. I did coach football. I want to make sure people know, who I am. I'm a husband, a dad, a grandparent, and and I do what I do.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Main Street Minds. Want to share your journey with our audience? Head over to mainstreetmindspodcast.com/guest to apply.